Hello YouTube, it's Yobi here. I'll be showing you how to make a Cambot in a program called Blender. First, what I'm going to do, go here to Create and Cube. I'm going to move this back to the middle. That's where I'm also going to be moving my 3D cursor. I have my cube. I'll come up here and name this Affection Module. Why I'm naming it that? Just because it's the middle of it. Now I'm going to hit Shift and D. And then I'm going to press X to move it along the X-axis. But before I move it, I need to hit Magnet key. That way it's stuck to a grid. And now I can just move it freely by pressing the G key and hitting X. Now, to this block I have here, I can come up here and name it Wedge. This will be our first wedge. Now, make sure your point selection tool is selected. Select these two top points and hit delete verticals. Now you see you have these two planes. Select that point and this one and make the side. Do the same to these. Now you may be asking, why is there this big hole? That's because we need to fill it in by selecting the sides with the edge selection selected and hitting F. That will make the face. It's also how I made the lines between the points. We'll do the same for these. Now we have our first wedge. But you may be saying, but when I go to rendered, it doesn't look like a wedge. Well, it looks like a wedge, but there's no texture. What we need to do is go here to the texture and name it, oh, let's say an orange hole. That's what we'll be using for this. Now to remove the glare, as you see on this portion, we'll just go to the intensity here and turn that off. And so we can see us in dark places, we'll set 0.5 emission. Now go over here to your Materials tab and hit New. In this version of Blender, it'll bring you straight to image or movie type. We will name this texture Orange Hole. Next, we're going to go down here to Mapping, and it has coordinates. We'll be setting this to generated, and this to cube. That way it generates in a cube fashion. Now we must open the image that we have saved. By hitting this button, it allows you to see the images. Here we have our orange hole. So we're going to just hit Open Image. And we have a successful orange hole texture upon this wedge. Now I'm going to hit Shift D and make the rest of the wedges. To rotate, you hit R, and then for this one, you hit Y or one of the other directional keys. As you see here, I have the rest of the wedges. Now let's see how this looks and rendered. It looks normal. But what happens, because we're going to make this all one mesh, if we join them all together. I just have to deselect a couple of these and then single right click on one of them to make it your main point of joining. Now we're head back to Tools, hit Join. This is now one object. So set origin, geometry. That way it's in the middle of all of these. If you go back into rendered view, you see the texture is all messed up. Go to orange hole and then texture. Here we have the size. Right now ours is only for 1 unit. But if you change it to fit 3 on X and Y, you'll see that gets fixed. Next we'll be texturing the shield blocks. I like to name it for organization. I'm going to set the sizes now just to make it easier for us later. As you see here, the texture is painted on 3 times, making a 9x9 cube. And now we have 2. We'll select these and then select the main body of our Cambot. Hit join. Now, in rendered, it is on there as if it is a single block. I am just using this to show a rendered view as I work on it. Next, we will be making the power core, as I call it. And now hit join. Now what I'm going to do is make the engines, and while I'm leaving the core for last, you'll see why soon enough. I'll hit Control A, cube, this over to the back. Now this one, it requires 3 textures. So we're going to say E back, E side, and E bottom. Now I'm putting the normal settings onto all of these. Here is our back thruster. Open image. Now it looks like some sort of boombox. But what we need to do is hit E side, go to edit mode, and select these 3 sides, and hit sign. Now you see, these are different than the other ones. Now for each side we go to material, new, these sides, generated cube, open, get your material, now the sides all have material, but top and bottom have the same as the full cube. So we'll be selecting those, go to E bottom, assign, now it's white. Go here, texture, set up the names, you see the texture is messed up because we did not set it correctly. So we must go to generated, hit cube, just the way it makes it correctly on both sides. Now, set their sizes up so they can match with the full single mesh. I'll go to Object. I do it this way just to make it easier. Put them all as one and join. Now they're all a single column. You move it into place. Right click on the body, right click on the engines, join. We'll rename this back to Cambot. So far, it's pretty much complete. Now, we just have to add a core. Now, I want to be using a different texture for this. So, I'm going to head out of these windows, open up Photoshop, open the main BlenderMade textures that I have acquired from the BlenderMade itself. And I would like to use the jump computer as the main core instead of using the normal core texture. So what I'll do is just open this and zoom in using Control and plus until I start seeing this grid. I'll take my selection tool, select the entire area, and then crop, file, save as, and this one is warp computer, C, save, and now back into Blender. We'll add another cube, move it forward, and do regular texturing. And now, a moment of truth. Now we have us a Cambot. But remember that one cube inside? I think I merged it accidentally. Oh well. But now we're just going to select all this, make sure on vertices, and remove doubles. That way it'll save on render time. Well, this is how you make a Cambot. CLB2 signing off.